Get Carter has been called the greatest British film of all time. Taking into consideration any qualms concerning such statements, it's clear the film is rightly regarded as a stone-cold classic. Released in 1971, the film follows London gangster Jack Carter as he returns to his hometown of Newcastle for the funeral of his brother, Frank.
In a thin blouse.
Unsatisfied with the official explanation for his brother's apparent drink-driving related death, Carter sets off on an odyssey in search of the truth, setting in motion a series of brutal, violent and at times bitterly dark-humoured exchanges with the local criminal fraternity. Get Carter is without doubt one of Michael Caine's finest movies and finest performances. In the 7 short years since its breakthrough as Lieutenant Gonville Bromhead in 1964 Zulu, Caine had become a major international star, with films such as Gambit with Shirley MacLaine, Hurry Sundown with Jane Fonda, and Robert Aldrich's Too Late the Hero. Get Carter, however, is a very British movie. Taking advantage of the loosening of censorship in regards to sex and violence, it is a grim and unflinching tour of seedy and depraved criminality, played out in an environment of squalid rooms, nicotine-stained pubs, fatigued Victorian architecture bathed in decades of grime and unimportance, punctuated with the startling contrast of the late 20th century concrete brutalism of the Trinity Square multi-storey car park in the centre of Gateshead. If director Mike Hodges wanted the setting of the film to reflect Carter's hard and deprived upbringing, he succeeds, and then some. The film's incessant drive comes from a script lean and muscular, a mirrored-in economy by Carter's purposeful and unswerving actions. Nothing is wasted or offered for anything more than Carter's insatiable lust for retribution. Carter is relentless, an animal of instinct, with no thought to consequence or collateral damage. Innocence carries no weight, as Barman Keith, played by Alan Armstrong in his first starring role, painfully finds out when he is badly beaten.
Yeah, get yourself a course in karate.
What you don't get from the film is the ridiculous poetic language used by gangsters in certain films, especially those made in the USA since The Godfather in 1972, that attempts to sidestep their innate nature as vile men, only capable of communicating with violence and intimidation. A florid script with soliloquies about loyalty, family and fealty and actors overacting are not to be found in Get Carter.
Do you know, I had almost forgotten what your eyes look like. They're still the same. Piss holes in the snow.
But there is an uncomfortable conundrum for the audience in the fact that ultimately Jack Carter is righting a wrong. On finding out that his brother Frank was murdered because he discovered his daughter had been used in a cheap pornographic film, Carter gets justice as justice is served in this underworld. Get Carter is also a unique snapshot of the north of England at the beginning of a new decade, one following the so-called swinging 60s. But there clearly hadn't been any summer of love drifting on a fug of incense and patchouli oil. No inclusiveness, social mobility or levelling out in these Dickensian brown-stained streets. It portrays a world far removed from the love is all you need technicolor dream of the 1960s. It is often forgotten Ronnie and Reggie Kray and the Moors murderers Ian Brady and Myra Hindley did their vile deeds during the decade, crimes that to this day leave one cold. The film attracts its audience, as do many crime thrillers, because of a grim fascination with violent crime and a twisted glamour of gangster chic. Astonishingly, the Krays were seen in some quarters as folk heroes who had taken on a corrupt establishment that had become detached from normal working people. In popular culture, the Rolling Stones were seen as arbiters from Gomorrah and corrupters of the youth, and yet the Krays, who actually were vile and immoral, were modern-day Robin Hoods, inherently stylish and in turn somehow defensible. In a way, the film sets Carter in a similar mould. Of course, it's Michael Caine, so the audience is positioned on a certain side before they know the details. As the chaos ensues and the body count increases, it comes down to each individual's moral compass about whether his sense of justice can be condoned. Written by jazz pianist and composer Roy Budd, the iconic opening theme, known as Carter Takes a Train, was recorded live, with the musicians playing along with the film, no overdubs and with a reported budget of £450. using an unusual mix of Wurlitzer electric piano, grand piano, Indian tablas and a harpsichord, an instrument synonymous with the Baroque, and then taken up by rock and pop musicians during the 1960s, lends the theme a unique exoticism next to its jazz stylings. Like all the greatest soundtracks, the theme has melded with the film and vice versa, to the extent it's now impossible to hear or see one without feeling the tug of the other. Carter's momentum carries the film inexorably to the final kill, where Eric Pace, played by Ian Hendry, meets a grisly end via the butt of a shotgun. Here, death amongst the coal waste turning the sea a grim, lifeless black and grey slop, morality has no place. A waste of humanity dumped into humanity's waste. Ian Hendry's alcoholism and poor physical shape was apparent on the set of Get Carter, compounding his dislike and jealousy of Michael Caine's success. Hodges and Caine used Hendry's bitter resentment to create greater tension in the scenes between Carter and Eric Pace. In Ted Lewis's novel, Jack's Return Home, on which the film was based, Carter survives, but in the film, Hodges decides to kill Carter at the finale, shot by an assassin moments after killing Eric Pace. While he may not be the moral knight some have suggested, and he is a cold, cruel, violent thug, he does have a sense of what is right, of justice, and even maybe a tinge of conscience. But Hodges wanted Carter dealt with in exactly the same way he dealt with other people, saying, "We create the state we get ourselves into, and that then dictates a large part of the way that we live, and the amount of justice meted out to us if we've not treated others with respect and kindness."